Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
The cold look on and Beiyu's face suddenly trembled, and she couldn't help but look at Chen Beiyuan, who was surrounded by scalding heat and was red all over. She suddenly stopped her, and her hand movements paused, showing some doubts. What's wrong? However, doubts remained. She did not continue to freeze, and the burst of pressure and offensive also slowed down. The giant ice storm that had almost blocked the entire southern Xinjiang began to gradually dissipate, and the frozen time and space began to be unblocked. The terrifying emperor beast that had just broken through to the realm of the strongest has now completely turned into a huge monster of ice. Most of the vitality in the body has been almost destroyed. Under the gaze, the last trace of activity. If Chen Beiyuan hadn't called out in time, this terrifying emperor beast would have been killed on the spot by the furious Emperor Gu. However, at this moment, Chen Beiyuan did not answer. Instead, he closed his eyes and communicated with concubine Huang in the Void Temple, asking, "What should we do next?" From his subconscious actions at this moment and his unhesitating trust, we can see the status of Huang Fei, the rank 9 weapon spirit of Void Temple, in his mind. "Master, your hand touches the giant beast of the void." Concubine Huang uses the little energy left in the Void Temple to teleport you into... Cough, cough, cough. The voice of the Void Weapon Spirit appeared again. Good. Swish. Chen Beiyuan's figure suddenly appeared in front of the frozen monster and stretched out his hand. In an instant, his body suddenly erupted out of thin air with a wave of void that far exceeded the Emperor level. It instantly surrounded the surroundings and almost enveloped the frozen Emperor beast, as if it was about to perform some kind of teleportation. This sudden situation also stunned Beiyuan, especially when her eyes paused for a moment at the void aura emanating from Chen Beiyuan's body. A flash of astonishment flashed through her. "I have great use for this monster. I will take it away for now. I will leave the rest to Beiyuan and follow the original plan." He suddenly spoke and explained. Immediately, he took out his young master token from his arms and conveyed some kind of special message. The next moment, in the silent gaze of Beiyuan, the huge iceberg-like imperial beast disappeared from this world without a trace. Is that power belonging to the divine realm? Her eyes flickered with a bit of surprise and astonishment. Obviously, she didn't expect this lecherous little b**************** D to have such a trump card. It seems that she made the right bet. This lecherous kid is indeed extraordinary. Emperor Gu. The reason why he cooperates so hard is naturally because he has his own little thoughts. The imperial capital, the prince's mansion. Jiang Yunfan has become very low-key since returning from Sakura country, and even rarely appears in front of people for a long time. Even during the previous war in the imperial capital, he did not move at all. He had been cultivating quietly in the prince's mansion without even showing his face. This series of actions undoubtedly caused all the major forces in the entire imperial capital to subconsciously ignore the existence of him, the imperial prince and future heir apparent. Even the emperor in the palace turned a blind eye, as if he had never had this son. Suddenly, Jiang Yunfan, who was practicing, frowned and was interrupted by a wave of fluctuations. He opened his eyes suddenly, and soon he saw a jade pendant around his waist glowing with light, and his expression suddenly changed, becoming a little nervous and excited. This jade pendant was a contact token personally given to him by Chen Beiyuan after he said, "Chen and Jiang share the world," when he was in Sakura country, after forming an alliance with Chen Beiyuan. But since then, he has not received a single message from Chen Beiyuan. Now, Chen Beiyuan finally contacted him. Is it possible to take action in advance? With a strange emotion of nervousness and excitement, Jiang Yunfan took off the jade pendant, entered his mind, and began to read the message. But the next moment, there was a look of astonishment on his face. "Look for an opportunity to send Yunhua out of the palace, and someone will take care of him." This seems to be different from the information he expected. Jiang Yunfan frowned and twisted into a knot, trying hard to guess the meaning. Send sixth sister out of the palace? Chen Beiyuan, what on earth are you going to do? After the last war in the imperial capital, My father had ordered that Lu Mei be pardoned from the grounding, but afterwards it seemed as if he had forgotten about it. Although there was no grounding, Lu Mei was not allowed to leave the palace easily. In this case, it is definitely not easy to help send people out of the palace. It is definitely impossible to do it head-on. I am afraid that we have to use the hidden secrets in a secret passage that have been buried in the palace over the years. Once used, many previous arrangements will go wrong. Do you really want to help? His expression was uncertain, as if he was making some kind of decision. Imperial Palace, Yangxing Pavilion. Your Highness, it's time to eat. Put it down, you can go. Jiang Yinhua, who was wearing a delicate phoenix skirt, leaned on the windowsill without looking back. There seemed to be a bit of unconcealable sadness on her face, and she waved her hand to drive away the palace maid who brought the royal meal. She stared in the direction of the Chun family outside the palace, with a trace of lovesickness in her eyes. Since the imperial capital war, she has been imprisoned in the palace with almost no chance to leave. During this period, she begged her father for mercy and even went to the harem to find the imperial grandmother, but to no avail. In the end, she still couldn't escape the fate of being imprisoned. It seemed that the father wanted to use her as a bargaining chip to contain Beiyuan. Although her bargaining chip does not hold that much weight in Beiyuan's heart. After feeling sad for a while, Jiang Yinhua, who was getting hungry, finally got up and ate some of the imperial meal that was delivered to him. But when she just came to the table and opened the copper cover covering the royal meal to keep warm, her pupils shrank. Suddenly, a note and an Ingshou fruit core came into view. Midnight. The imperial guards responsible for patrolling the palace began to make exchanges. However, the imperial army team responsible for patrolling Yangxing Pavilion was inexplicably a quarter of an hour late. A figure wearing a palace-maid costume walked cautiously on the palace road with her head lowered. This palace maid is none other than Jiang Yinhua. At this moment, she is following the contents of the note to escape from the palace. And the reason why she made this decision without hesitation was because of the Ingshou fruit. That is something that only Beiyuan has. Escape. Except for the longevity fruit, the content on the rest of the note was very simple and somewhat inexplicable, with only one word in it. In addition, there is also a route map to an uninhabited side courtyard of the inner palace. Although, I don't know how Beiyuan sent the note and the fruit to the palace and in front of her through special means. But after seeing the content on the note, Jiang Yinhua chose to execute it without hesitation. It's impossible for Beiyuan to harm me. The reason why he sent the news to me through this secret method must have his intention. Is it possible that Beiyuan thinks that I will be in danger in the palace? But how is this possible? The imperial palace is definitely the safest place in the entire Donghua Empire, and even in the entire human race. Could it be that Beiyuan discovered something? Jiang Yinhua lowered his head and walked quickly, paying attention to his surroundings from time to time, thinking a lot. As the person closest to Beiyuan, she naturally knows Beiyuan's character. If things weren't abnormal, he would definitely not use the word escape easily. And he was able to arrange for the hidden child lurking in the palace to prepare an escape route for her. This series of changes vaguely reminded her that something happened in the palace that she didn't know about. Thinking of this, Jiang Yinhua's originally calm heart began to tighten. Although he still lowered his head, his peripheral vision could not help but spin left and right. It was almost midnight, and only some special palaces and bedrooms in the entire palace were lit with candles. Most of the place was plunged into darkness. If you want to walk in the aisles, you must light a lantern. At this time, the palace was almost like a terrifying giant beast dormant in the darkness, inadvertently exuding a terrifying sense of fear. Under normal circumstances, the palace guard should have started to change their defenses at this time. But why hasn't there been any movement? You must know that the fourth uncle is personally in charge of the imperial guards, and they are only loyal to the father, even Beiyuan. Maybe it's time to interfere. Also, why is the road to Huilin Court so quiet? Not even a palace maid or eunuch can be seen. You must know that this road is the only way to Wuji Palace where my father works. For some reason, the more Jiang Yinhua thought about it at this moment, the more inexplicable horror he felt in his heart. At this moment, she was approaching the periphery of the Wuji Palace, where her father worked. She immediately subconsciously slowed down her steps, and even her breathing became very light and cautious. At this moment, she was holding a candlelight lantern in her left hand and clutching a phoenix feather that exuded sparkling light in her right hand. This phoenix feather was a treasure given to her by the phoenix beast that was accidentally injured when she was young. This is also her biggest trump card and opportunity as the heroine of luck. Nothing should happen. Even if I am discovered, given my identity, there won't be any. Just when Jiang Yunhua was comforting himself secretly, his expression suddenly changed, and his steps stopped. A strong smell of blood suddenly spread from the direction of Wuji Hall in front. Gulyalu. At this moment, a round object suddenly rolled out from the courtyard door in front and stopped less than a few meters in front of her. Under the weak firelight of the lantern, the full picture of the round object was revealed in front of her. It was a boy's head. 14th brother. Jiang Yunhua's pupils shrank, almost like needles, and the hand holding the lantern couldn't help but tremble, as if there was a turbulent wave in his heart. Wuji Hall. The strong smell of blood filled the hall. A creepy gnawing sound echoed in the darkness. Tear, tear. Scarlet blood splashed on the bright yellow imperial robe, looking a little evil and crazy. Deep palace, small courtyard. An old farmer slowly opened his eyes, staring dimly in the direction of Wuji Palace, with some inexplicable relief on his face, and murmured to himself, "Eat, eat more." At this moment, Jiang Yunhua no longer knew how he bypassed Wuji Palace and appeared in Huilin Courtyard. At this moment, her mind was in confusion. The 14th brother rolled out from the Wuji Palace, and the sound of eating people coming from the palace. Why would the 14th brother die in the palace or in Wuji Hall? That's not my father's. When she thought of some horrifying and terrifying thought, her body couldn't help but tremble. When thinking about my own situation, confined, not allowed to leave the palace, a creepy chill suddenly surged into my heart. At this moment, she seemed to have understood why Beiyuan let her escape. This time it was the 14th brother, next time it might be her. Click. Guided by the note, she quickly found a secret passage hidden in a dry well in Huilin Courtyard. When she was about to get in, the phoenix feather in her hand glowed with a scalding light, like a warning. Damn it! Jiang Yunhua's expression changed drastically, and he suddenly raised his head and looked towards the wellhead above, and suddenly saw a blurry white shadow looking at her quietly. A chill that penetrated deep into her bones appeared, as if she was about to be completely frozen. But at this moment, an illusory red rope suddenly appeared on her left wrist. Life and death. In an instant, the chill that penetrated into the bone marrow was forcibly transferred away. The luck of Bai Ruowei, Leng Ruobing, and Biyu and the other lucky heroines instantly blessed her. There is also a taboo-like horror luck. Outside the dry well, the blurry white shadow moved suddenly. Snapped. Without any hesitation, Jiang Yunhua jumped directly into an underground river in the dark tunnel of dry well, and the phoenix feathers in his hand erupted into holy flames to protect himself. Bo. Outside the dry well, the blurry white shadow looked silently at the underground river below. After a long time, he suddenly burst like a bubble and disappeared, as if he had never appeared. Outer suburbs, underground river. Along with an undercurrent, a drenched figure wearing a red phoenix skirt suddenly rushed out from the depths. Just when she was about to roll down to the wet ground, she was hugged by a fluttering white figure of immortal qi. Jiang Yunhua, who was exhausted and weak in energy and blood, forced himself to open a crack and immediately saw Bai Ruowei's stunning appearance. Never mind, Ruowei. Seeing that the person Beiyuan arranged to pick him up turned out to be Bai Ruowei, his best sister and biggest love rival, Jiang Yunhua's tense heart relaxed. Immediately, she could no longer hold on, and completely passed out in Bai Ruowei's arms. Bai Ruowei also sighed secretly when she saw Jiang Yunhua in such a miserable state at the moment, which was almost in sharp contrast to before. Ever since Beiyuan secretly summoned her to pick up someone and bring him back to the Chun family for resettlement, she was still a little confused about that person's identity. But now that I saw that the man was actually Jiang Yunhua, and he was still in such a mess, I was shocked. But even if I knew it, Something big must be involved. It's been another troubled time. Royal Palace. Less than an hour after Jiang Yinhua escaped from the palace, the patrolling guards quickly discovered something strange. When the commander of the Imperial Army went to Wuji Hall and reported the matter to Emperor Jiang, he was immediately severely scolded. B****************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************e here in the palace. Could it be that he has raised a traitor? Check it out. You must find the person. Soon, the disappearance of His Highness the 6th Prince and the 14th Prince spread in the palace. The entire palace was lit up almost instantly, and countless forbidden troops began to search everywhere, digging almost 3 feet into the ground to find the person. Soon, the secret lurkers lurking in the palace were also discovered, but several of them had already committed suicide by taking poison. And the underground river channel hidden in Huilan Courtyard was also discovered. However, when the commander of the Imperial Army rushed to the outskirts of the Imperial capital, there was no trace of him. Bai Ruowei, who had the blessing of the Baizhe fighting spirit, almost wiped out all traces in advance, leaving no clues. Just when the outside world was making a fuss, Chen Beiyuan returned to the familiar Void Temple with the Emperor Beast Ice sculpture. Boom. The ice sculpture of the terrifying Emperor Beast hit the inner hall heavily. Before it caused a huge movement, it was offset by the power of Void. Long time no see, Master. Chen Beiyuan, who had just returned to the Temple of the Void, was grabbed from behind by a pair of big hands at the next moment and was hugged into his arms. He was trapped in a dangerous situation, with his double peaks and ears, almost like a pillow doll. Long time no see, Huang. When Chen Beiyuan raised his head with a smile on his face and looked at the familiar figure of concubine Huang, his expression was stunned, and the smile on his face disappeared instantly. I saw that the Ti Ling, who used to be very nervous, full of energy, and extremely greedy, now looked very sick, and her face was also very pale. Her tall great monster body has also become a bit illusory, like a bubble that may dissipate at any time. At this moment, he also reacted and subconsciously looked around and suddenly saw that the light of the surrounding temples was also dimmed, as if there was some kind of problem. Ahem, cough, cough, little master, don't worry, my concubine is still alive. It's just that the teleportation from Void Temple was used continuously before, which caused the body to be a little too consumed. Concubine Huang looked a little weak and pale as she explained, as if she was about to die in the next second. Chen Beiyuan was a little silent, knowing that he had his own reasons for it. Before, almost all the remaining power of Void Temple was spent on him. At this moment, concubine Huang, who was supposed to be seriously ill, suddenly shone brightly after seeing the cute and kawaii-looking little Beiyuan in her arms. She couldn't help but swallow it as if she had seen a delicious snack to satisfy her cravings. Swallowing. Master, why have you become so cute? It's just a foul. My heart is beating so beautifully now. Master, it's been a long time since I last saw you. You smell so good. Let me take a sip of your scent. Just take a sip of your scent. Snapped. Seeing that concubine Huang had returned to her previous unreliable showmanship, Chen Beiyuan couldn't help but knock her on the head after being slobbered all over her face. Okay, it's time to stop. Let's talk about the business first. Who is this guy you call the Void Beast? And what is the use of this thing in the Void Temple? Ah, Master, although you have become smaller, your strength has become much stronger. The Void Artifact Spirit covered his head, looking aggrieved and showing off. However, after seeing Chen Beiyuan's increasingly serious expression, the laughter on her face disappeared. She looked at the frozen giant beast in front of her, became serious, and looked a little more emotional. Master, I don't know if it was your luck or my concubine's luck that allowed you to capture this giant void beast that is still in its infancy stage. You know, this kind of monster has a great reputation even outside the territory, and it is a gregarious creature. Even those powerful forces guarded by strong men in the divine realm will not take the initiative to provoke them. This kind of monster has a natural, void talent, which can wander in the void, wandering at will, and also has a terrifying, adaptive evolution second talent. As long as they are given time to grow, they can quickly accumulate strength. evolutionary breakthrough to the divine realm. If it hadn't been hiding when the meteorite came and was suddenly interrupted by someone, resulting in an abnormal situation of evolutionary failure, and the talent of void was temporarily lost, plus the world you are in has a restrictive seal, it would be almost impossible to achieve success. God, it will definitely be a nightmare for all races in your world. Following concubine Huang's explanation, Chen Xiaoyuan suddenly knew the true identity and origin of the terrifying imperial beast in front of him. This is almost a terrifying creature that even outsiders regard as a monster. Not to mention the almost omnipotent void talent. The bug's adaptive evolution alone is enough to make countless people despair. It's a pity that it was unlucky in the end and met you, its master, and ended up becoming a prisoner. Master, the behemoth core, in the body of this giant void beast's cub contains terrifying void energy, which happens to be of the same origin as Void Temple. If it can be taken out, the situation in Void Temple will be improved a lot. Keep going. Thinking of this, even though concubine Huang, as a weapon spirit of rank 9 divine weapon, followed a certain previous master, she was well informed and had seen many big scenes. At this moment, I can't help but marvel at Chen Xiaoyuan's luck. It's simply unbelievable. You must know that the Void Behemoth is an overlord existence outside the territory and belongs to the dominant party. At the same time, it is also a group that lives in groups. There are very few individuals that wander alone. Not to mention, it is still just a Void Behemoth in its infancy. It just happened that he had just arrived and was in the evolution stage, but his evolution was artificially interrupted, resulting in the temporary loss of void, talent, and the loss of the strongest escapability. Under such circumstances, it was determined to go head-to-head with Chen Beiyuan, the #1 prodigy of the human race, and in Beiyu, the lord of southern Xinjiang. You know, these two people are now almost the most powerful beings in the human race in the eyes of all races outside. 1 against 2, no matter how hard-headed it is, it's useless. Concubine Huang, you just said that the Behemoth Core and the Void Temple in this giant void beast belong to the same source. Chen Xiaoyuan keenly captured the message contained in it, as if he had guessed something. The master is really smart. He discovered it so quickly. Yes, the Void Temple is essentially made from the corpse of a god-level void beast. The previous owner was a useless one. Therefore, I was hunted down by those void monsters that advocate evolution. Concubine Huang also did not shy away from it, and directly told the origin and situation of Void Temple. It is precisely because of this same origin that the power contained in the core of this void beast can be absorbed by the temple and solve the temple's current predicament. As she spoke, the movements in her hands did not stop, and she began to mobilize the remaining power of the temple to turn into a void blade, and began to dissect the frozen and terrifying emperor beast in front of her. Click, click. After being frozen by the extreme cold, the golden and silver steel skin on the terrifying emperor beast had already lost its original defense, became extremely fragile, and could be cut open easily. Soon, a behemoth core, covered with layers of ice crystals, with a weird shape but still beating slowly, was forcibly dragged out. Gulu, Gulu. Seeing the behemoth core, with some activity appearing, Huang Fei instantly sensed the void power contained in it, and she couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Snapped, snapped, snapped. The behemoth core began to dry up quickly, and the void energy contained in it was quickly absorbed by the temple. The originally dim temple began to become brighter and shine. The pale color on concubine Huang's face quickly disappeared, and her color gradually began to return. Her figure, which was still somewhat illusory, began to stare at her little by little. The void energy consumed before was quickly replenished at this moment. Seeing this scene, Chen Xiaoyuan thought to himself, and at the same time he had a clearer understanding of the Void Behemoth clan. This kind of overlord monster from outside the territory is not only amazingly powerful, but it also seems to be a supreme grade magic weapon material. Master, the core of this void beast has been absorbed by the temple, and the remaining remains still have some activity. Do you need concubine Huang to use the power of the temple to preserve it? I will wait for you to find a divine weapon craftsman in the future, used to refine emperor weapon. After absorbing the core of the giant beast, concubine Huang's spirit was obviously much more active, and she regained her previous sluttish look. She tortured Chen Xiaoyuan in her arms with her double breasts, and a bad look began to appear on her face. Smile. Even his big hands started to look a little irregular. No need. I have other uses. Chen Beiyuan flatly rejected her suspicion and slapped Shi Yuan's hand away. Put me down. After concubine Huang put it down reluctantly, he strode towards the terrifying emperor beast that looked like a huge iceberg in front of him. His eyes suddenly erupted with deep magic light, and a touch of forbidden aura began to permeate his body. Concubine Huang, who was still a little timid at first, saw the taboo, demonic energy erupting from Chen Beiyuan's body. The smile on her face also disappeared, and her eyes became suspicious. For some reason, with that forbidden demonic look on her face, even as a divine weapon spirit, she felt a sense of fear from the bottom of her heart. Boom. In her astonished gaze, the forbidden demonic energy that erupted from Chen Beiyuan's body instantly filled the air, quickly covering the corpse of the void beast, as if it were eating from a big mouth of the abyss. I don't lack anything like the Emperor weapon. In contrast, I am more interested in the talent of this giant beast of the void. After seeing the terrifying evolution of the terrifying Emperor beast before, Chen Xiaoyuan became extremely coveted for its evolution of the fittest talent. With this bug talent, as long as you can't kill it, you can grow quickly. Just when Chen Beiyuan started to devour the void beast and tried to obtain its talent characteristics. All military equipment was robbed by the bandits, and everyone who followed them died. The only survivor, Lin Jiuxiao, stumbled back to the Lin family in the imperial capital and brought back the bad news. Lin family, study room. What are you talking about? All the strong men of the Lin family who were in charge of transportation during this trip have died, and the weapons and equipment used to arm the 5 armies on the southern front were seized by a group of southern Xinjiang robbers. That batch of weapons and equipment is related to the Lin family's future deployment strategy, and you actually lost it to me. Lin Jiuzhou's roar of uncontrollable rage spread out of the study room almost instantly, causing the servants outside to tremble. At this moment, the recently ascended head of the Lin family was staring angrily at his scarred and trembling third brother Lin Jiuxiao, who was kneeling on the ground in front of him. If the greater the surprise Lin Jiuxiao gave him before, the greater the shock to him now. This big surprise almost made him fume. You know, the reason why he asked his third brother to do this is because he wanted to entrust him with important tasks in the future and shoulder the heavy responsibility of his family. But now, the other party obviously disappointed him. If the person in front of him is not his biological brother, he would like to tear his head off. However, even so, during this period of time, his anger due to the continuous trivial matters and various chores was somewhat unable to be suppressed at this moment. Waste. He hated that iron was not enough and kicked Lin Jiuxiao to the ground. He hit his forehead directly on the corner of the table, scratching his forehead and dripping with blood. Bang! After being punished in southern Xinjiang, Lin Jiuxiao, who was covered in scars, suddenly received a slap in the face and almost lost his breath on the spot. He also had a huge bloody hole on his head, and the blood flowed nonstop. At this moment, he was like a dog on the roadside. He was kicked by someone and couldn't help but let out a howl. Grandpa was forced to retreat to recover from his injuries, and my father was imprisoned in Gongdian. The huge Lin family is all borne by me alone. I thought you could share some of the burden for me, but this is how you repay me? The outside world has been saying that you can't hold up the wall, and you have always asked me to give you a chance to perform. Now that the chance is given to you, you just messed up the matter. Do you want to ruin the entire Lin family before you are willing to do it? Lin Jiuzhou seemed to be so angry that he was dizzy with anger. He no longer had the calmness of the past. He kicked his third brother on the ground as if he was beating his own dog, showing no mercy. In an instant, Lin Jiuxiao was beaten until he vomited blood. He curled up and rolled on the ground, screaming in agony. At this moment, Lin Jiuzhou was completely unaware of the blue veins popping up on his forehead. There seemed to be something squirming inside the veins, bit by bit getting into his brain, affecting his thinking. At this moment, the figure on the ground wailing and begging for mercy shouted, "Elder brother!" Boom! Lin Jiuzhou's body trembled, his pupils shrank, and his raised feet instantly stopped in place. Seeing the third brother howling in pain and knocking his head on the ground, the anger in his heart disappeared without a trace in an instant. The cold face also had a moment of confusion and regret. What happened? How could I do such a heavy hand? How could I suddenly be so impulsive? Although the third brother is responsible for this matter, the real factor is that the people in southern Xinjiang do not keep their promises. This means that the other party has been eyeing the Lin family's weapons and equipment from the beginning. At this moment, Lin Jiuzhou, who suddenly calmed down, also discovered the fishiness. This time, there are only a few strong men in the Lin family who can be wiped out at once in the entire southern Xinjiang. The biggest suspect is the Gu clan. The newly appointed Gu clan saintess obviously has no intention of getting along well with the Lin family. Good, good, good. Everyone sees the decline of my Lin family and wants to get a piece of the pie, right? Even those southern Xinjiang barbarians dare to attack the Lin family. How can things from my Lin family be so easy to get? As soon as he thought of this, Lin Jiuzhou was filled with anger again, and his chest felt tight. He suppressed his anger and lowered his eyes to look at the miserable third brother on the ground. His heart was trembling slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but when the words came to his lips, he turned around and said coldly, "Go back to your kennel. I'll send someone to heal you later." He is no longer the Lin Jiuzhou he was before. He is now the head of the Lin family, and every move he makes will attract the attention of countless people. In this case, he can never admit that he was wrong. Can't even apologize. This will undoubtedly damage your dignity. Moreover, this time Jiu Xiao made such a big mistake. No matter what the cause, he must give an explanation to others. "Okay, brother." Lin Jiu Xiao, who was almost dying on the ground, pushed himself up and climbed up. He lowered his head and walked out without saying a word. But his lowered eyes couldn't hide the hatred and madness. Obviously, the scene where Lin Jiuzhou almost beat him like a dead dog just now made him deeply resentful. But just as he was about to walk out, the door in front of him was suddenly pushed open. The old housekeeper of the Lin family rushed in hurriedly, with an anxious look on his face. The head of the family is in trouble. According to the news sent back by the family spies, all the material channels on the southern front have been blocked by people sent by the Gu tribe in southern Xinjiang. The empire's materials cannot be transported in at all. It is difficult to maintain the stored materials of the army on the southern front. I am afraid that it will be used up soon. What? Those southern Xinjiang people are so bold. First, they openly robbed the empire of military supplies, and now they cut off military supplies. If they want to rebel, are they not afraid that our imperial army will flatten the entire southern Xinjiang? The anger that Lin Jiuzhou had just suppressed was completely uncontrollable at this moment, and it shot straight into Tianling Gai, his eyes ready to burst into flames. This series of manipulations clearly targeted the army on the southern front and interfered with the southern layout of the empire. How dare those southern Xinjiang people dare to interfere in the imperial military? Do you really think that southern Xinjiang is a land outside the law? Is it really bad for the empire to use its sword? I want to go to the palace and ask His Majesty to convene a military meeting to discuss the issue of sending troops to southern Xinjiang. Now, my Lin family has handed over 2 major war zones, and Chen Ziqing is in charge of the 9 major war zones of the empire. It is just right for him to leave. Master, just now Commander-in-Chief Chen announced that the 9 war zones will conduct joint exercises and refuse any military action in the near future. As soon as the old housekeeper spoke, Lin Jiuzhou froze on the spot, motionless as if struck by lightning. He is not a fool, so he can naturally see the fishiness in it. When trouble started in southern Xinjiang, the Chen family started conducting war zone drills. Puff! He spurted out a mouthful of blood. His mind was dizzy, his body went limp, and he fell down. Master! Master! Someone comes quickly. Someone comes quickly. Lin Jiuxiao, who walked out of the study, ignored the eldest brother behind him who was so angry that he vomited blood and fainted, and walked straight towards his yard. It seemed that the person who fainted behind him was not his elder brother, but a stranger. However, at this moment, he didn't notice the direction in the corner. There was a sinister figure looking at the brothers coldly. The more messy, the better. If it's not messy, how can I get the maximum benefit? The next day, the news that the head of the Lin family, Lin Jiuzhou, vomited blood and fell into coma immediately spread throughout the imperial capital, attracting the attention of many people. However, what is interesting is that all the major families in the entire imperial capital are very taboo about what happened in southern Xinjiang, and there is almost no open discussion. Nowadays, even a fool can see that what happened in southern Xinjiang is inseparable from the Qin family. The mysterious saintess from the southern Xinjiang Gu tribe is even suspected of having an unclear relationship with the Qin family. At this time, one south and one north occupied almost half of the entire empire. I'm afraid someone might be in a hurry again. The next day, Lin Jiuzhou personally came to visit Chen Ziqing, the head of the Qin family, as a junior, and stayed at the Chen family for half an hour, not knowing what they were discussing. Ha ha ha. If your wise nephew comes forward, it's natural for your uncle to refuse for your father's sake. Don't worry, your uncle will make the decision for you. Then Jiuzhou would like to thank my uncle. I hope my uncle can come forward as soon as possible to negotiate with southern Xinjiang. Open up the material channels first and transport things in first. Don't worry, my dear nephew. This is all a trivial matter. By the way, uncle, my Lin family, the equipment of the 5 armies that was seized by southern Xinjiang. Can you please ask the Chen family to come forward? Hey, this uncle is helpless. By the way, just yesterday, our Chen family just imported a batch of second-hand arms from southern Xinjiang. Just pretend Jiuzhou didn't say anything. Lin Jiuzhou forced himself to leave the Chen family with a stiff smile. Before leaving, he had to thank the Chen family for helping him at a critical moment. I have been cheated by others, and I still have to thank them. How can there be such a reason in the world? Soon, the 9 theaters of the empire announced that the exercises were suspended and made a move to send troops to southern Xinjiang. The entire southern Xinjiang was in an uproar. The blocked material channels were quickly reopened. As the overlord of southern Xinjiang, the Gu tribe personally went out to find out the situation and handed over several culprits to take the blame. In an instant, the Lin family's crisis was lifted. But on the southern front, the army belonging to the Lin family has undergone considerable changes, and many people from the Chun family have been placed in it. At the same time, a theater was specially equipped to station on the southern front, strengthening military deployment on the southern front. At this point, the Chen family's hands have even been involved in the southern front. The last army of the Lin family is also under constant surveillance and infiltration, and there is almost no possibility of a comeback. The Lin family is completely paralyzed. No one is afraid of the tiger whose claws have been pulled out one after another. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the Chun family is now only one step away from the unification of the Donghua Empire's military power. At the same time, a piece of heavy news from the northern front once again shocked the entire empire. The northern border is attacked and ferocious beasts invade. At the critical moment, Marshal Chen was so powerful that he killed Kuei Niu, Zhou, and the 2 most powerful ferocious beasts. The northern front has been initially unified, and its territory has been expanded to 11 imperial provinces. Currently, the border army is clearing out the remaining remnants of the ferocious beasts and alien races. When this deafening sound appeared within the Donghua Empire, it immediately made everyone's scalp numb. No one knows how the old Marshal Chen Shana, who was supposed to be seriously ill, killed the 2 most powerful beasts Kuei Niu and Zhou one after another. Even Kuei Niu and Zhou didn't know why the old man who was about to die suddenly exploded when they were supposed to have successfully attacked him secretly, returning to his peak state, becoming even more terrifying and twisting their heads by the way. Father, I failed to meet your expectations. Puff. After returning to the Lin family, Lin Jiuzhou couldn't bear the heavy burden in his heart. He spurted out a mouthful of blood and fell completely ill. The Lin family has completely declined in his hands, almost losing its last military power. Once the military power is completely lost, The Lin family will no longer be any different from other top families and will no longer have the aura it once had. In contrast, the Chen family, the old enemy of the Lin family, has risen all the way and has initially gathered the foundation of a 10,000-year-old foundation. I'm afraid that when people talk about the imperial military in the future, there will only be one big mountain. The fall of Lin Jiuzhou, the new head of the family, undoubtedly plunged the entire Lin family into civil strife again. In less than a year, the behemoth Lin family fell for 3 generations in a row. Some people have begun to see the coming trend. Brother, don't die, don't die. Looking at his elder brother who was in a coma on the hospital bed, Lin Jiuxiao could not hold back the smile, sad look. Behind him, Lin Zhao's green eyes were staring at Lin Jiuzhou on the hospital bed, and he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Imperial Palace, Wuji Hall. Trash that cannot be reused. What mud can't hold up a wall? Bang. Emperor Zhang's face was livid, and he kicked the imperial case in front of him over with one kick, making a dull, loud noise. The important memorials from all over the empire placed on the imperial desk were instantly scattered all over the floor. I thought that Lin Jiuzhou was useful and could lead the Lin family to continue to compete with the Chen family in a short period of time and contain. For this reason, he did not hesitate to make a big bet, sending weapons and equipment to the Lin family, hoping to arm himself or two and increase his strength. As a result, in just a few days, I was overturned. And the good news about the unification of the Northern Front added fuel to the fire, making him feel angry. After this battle, the Donghua Chun family's momentum rose again, becoming the #1 family in the imperial capital in the eyes of countless people. Nowadays, there is an endless stream of people kneeling and licking the Chen family. Many people just regretted not marrying the Chen family, which gave them an advantage over the Bai family. Seeing the Chun family's strong momentum, the other aristocratic families close to the royal family remained silent and chose to shrink their heads. I ignored the hints from him as the emperor. Now, even if the royal family wanted to support someone similar to the Lin family to compete with the Chen family, no one would dare. It seems that we can only use that move in advance. Emperor Zhang's eyes were cold, looking at the embarrassing memorials on the ground. His fierce look was revealed, and he no longer had the majesty and calmness of sovereign in the past. At present, the Chen family has obviously achieved great success. The Chun Jiang dynasty, which had disappeared before, had risen again. Chen on top of the ginger. What? Your Chen family wants to sit in my Jiang family's seat. This situation is definitely unbearable for any king. Activate the people lurking in the Bald Eagle Alliance and send a message to the Caesar family. What they want is on Chen Beiyuan. Get in touch with those arrogant dragon races on Wanlong Island again and tell them the good news, saying that the transformed dragon girl next to Chen Beiyuan is the blood evil dragon emperor, back then. Temple of the Void. Ding, the host is using the forbidden magic book to plunder and devour, and begins to randomly extract the unique power of the target's body to devour. Ding, the activity detected on the target is too weak, resulting in the absorbed talent characteristics being relatively weak. Ding, congratulations to the host for plundering the new characteristic talent, Secondary Adaptive Evolution. Secondary Adaptive Evolution. You plundered and devoured the incomplete active flesh and blood of the Void Behemoth, allowing your own genes to develop strong adaptability. Since the evolutionary ability you obtained is incomplete and flawed, you cannot actively evolve. Only when they enter a strange environment or are on the verge of death will they subconsciously adjust the genes in their bodies, carry out corresponding passive evolution, obtain special reinforcements, and resist the threat of death. Click, click, accompanied by a special shell-shedding sound. The forbidden demonic flame that filled the entire Void Temple suddenly dissipated. Chen Beiyuan's figure suddenly appeared in the temple, and the giant Void beast in front of him, which looked like a huge iceberg, disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared before. Sure enough, it was successful. Although I didn't get the complete, adaptive evolution talent of the Void Beast in the true sense, I just got an incomplete one, but it's not a loss. Chen Beiyuan closed his eyes and felt the subtle changes in his body. At this moment, because we are in the Temple of the Void, secondary adaptive evolution has begun to take effect passively, make his body a little more friendly to void energy. Moreover, the ability to act and react in the void is faster, and it can withstand more void energy. Even the side effects of the magic stone in the body are beginning to show signs of weakening due to the intervention of secondary adaptive evolution. Although the passive evolution produced by this is not that big and not as terrifying as the real void behemoth, he is not discouraged at all at this moment, but is even more excited. This talent feature can not only cope with changes in various complex environments, but can also work wonders at critical moments. The Forbidden Book of the Abyss is indeed the #1 grimoire in the original work. It is truly terrifying. In the future, if you can encounter a living, void behemoth, you can still try to plunder and devour it to get the complete talent characteristics. However, it seems that this opportunity is rare. By then, I am afraid it will be outside the territory. Only then can we hunt the living, void beast. The mastermind behind sending this void beast in this time probably didn't expect that it would actually become my nourishment. Chen Beiyuan also had a rough guess in his mind about the mastermind behind sending this juvenile void beast in. The biggest suspect is Lin Xiao, the terrifying being behind Son of Fortune, who is suspected to be an ancient being. If he guessed correctly, the initial target of this giant void beast cub should be him. As a result, the white-clothed Taoist was affected by the bad luck, which blocked him from disaster and also weakened the strength and potential of this void beast. Master, you succeeded? Concubine Huang looked at the little master in front of her with surprise. As a temple weapon spirit, she was very keen on what happened in the entire temple. Naturally, Chen Beiyuan's subtle changes couldn't be hidden from her. She stepped forward excitedly, picked up the little master on the ground, and immediately hit him on the head with a double blow to the ear. Master, the Void Beast's adaptive evolution talent is coveted by many powerful groups even outside the territory. There are even strong men in the divine realm secretly capturing the cubs of the Void Beast for experiments, but no one has ever succeeded. However, he was later surrounded and killed by the entire group of giant Void Beasts. The forbidden magic book you practice is really too terrifying. Just the ability to plunder and devour talent is enough to drive countless people crazy, even those old monsters in the god realm, not even those who have just entered the saint realm. The next moment, her voice suddenly disappeared out of thin air, and what appeared instead was a strange whisper and noise. Chen Beiyuan, who was listening with interest and preparing to learn about the situation outside the territory, suddenly frowned, raised his head over the hill, and looked at Concubine Huang's somewhat strange and ugly face through the gap. What's wrong? Sorry, Master. Concubine Huang has forgotten that you are not from outside the territory. Before the 10,000-year catastrophe is coming and the seal is lifted, all information about the situation outside the territory and the corresponding information about the catastrophe will be isolated, making it difficult to tell you disclose. Concubine Huang's face looked ugly, and she explained to the little master in her arms a little guiltily. Chen Beiyuan narrowed his eyes and instantly thought of a special ancient divine ability from Concubine Huang's explanation. The law does not spread to 6 ears. It was almost as if some unspeakable, and unreasonable terrifying existence had imposed this divine ability restriction on everyone in their world. In this case, even if Concubine Huang is a divine weapon spirit, there is nothing she can do. However, this matter seems to be a bit far away for him, who is not even at the emperor level at this moment. In contrast, at this moment, he still had other questions to ask the void weapon spirit in front of him who had lived for who knows how many years. I saw that he stretched out his hand, with a blood dragon mark between his eyebrows, and directly took out a round and huge dragon egg with blood dragon patterns on the surface from the depths of the sea of consciousness. He held it in his hand and handed it to Huang Fei. As soon as the huge bloody dragon egg appeared in the outside world, a flash of blood appeared on the watch case, as if it was expressing some kind of close emotion towards Chen Beiyuan. Seeing the huge dragon egg react like this, there was a softness in his eyes. Huang Fei, help me check on Anu's condition. She has never woken up since the last time she fell asleep, but she still showed signs of degeneration. In just a few days, she turned into a dragon egg again. It is precisely because of this that Xiao Xiaolong has not been pestering him or hugging him during this period, but has been staying in his sea of consciousness. She just had a look on her face for several days, and she had no intention of breaking out of her shell. This undoubtedly made Chen Xiaoyuan feel a little uneasy. As for him who was not very clear about the secrets of dragon race, he naturally needed to consult concubine Huang, who had lived for countless years and knew countless secrets. Concubine Huang obviously did not disappoint him. She could see the special situation of little silly dragon anew at a glance. Hey, is this the transformation of the little female dragon who wanted to ride people? Interesting, this seems to be the legendary rebirth talent. This kind of top talent is extremely rare even outside the territory. Compared with adapt to evolution, are not bad at all, even better. Let me think about it. Let me think about it. Ah, I remembered. Master, if I remember correctly, this little female dragon has reached the final stage of rebirth. If she wants to break out of her shell and be reborn, she must be watered with the powerful blood of her own race. You may need to slay a dragon. Wanlong Island, Northern Dragon Territory. After being slapped in the face by Chen Beiyuan one after another, and then trying to launch a sneak attack on the northern front, Mr. Chen broke a dragon claw, and he fled back in embarrassment. Beiyan Dragon Emperor, the master of the Northern Dragon Territory, became the laughingstock of the entire dragon race, and even the transcendent level forces of the major alien beasts almost overnight. First, he was killed twice by a human race junior, but he still couldn't do anything to the opponent. Then he tried to sneak attack the opponent's elder, but in the end he was really beaten. During this period, the Northern Flame Dragon Emperor was so angry that he went on a killing spree throughout the entire Northern Dragon Territory, venting his anger by massacring the mixed-race dragon race and subdragon species. This move undoubtedly made the various mixed-race dragon race and subdragon species throughout Wanlong Island complain. If they hadn't been frightened by the bloody intimidation and powerful power of Beiyan Dragon Emperor for many years, and there was no powerful dragon emperor of the same level to stand up for them, I'm afraid they would have rebelled long ago. Those mixed-blood bastards are becoming more and more disrespectful. They actually dare to secretly mock me. They are simply ignorant of life and death. They just killed a few mixed-blood female dragons before, but those bastards dare to openly resist my rule. It seems that this emperor has been too kind to these bastards over the years. I have to discuss with the other old guys to kill those bastards who are doing little things secretly. And just when the Northern Flame Dragon Emperor was thinking about whether to unite with the other most powerful dragon emperors to carry out extermination of the entire Northern Flame Dragon territory, as well as the other major dragon territories, against mixed-blood hybrids, in order to ensure the noble status of the pure-blood dragon race. But the Prime Minister, a dragon turtle who suddenly rushed from the deep sea, heard an unimaginable bad news. What? That bloody madwoman is actually reborn. Its shocked voice resounded throughout the dragon palace and spread to the outside world. You can imagine how much this bad news frightened it. Damn this boy from the Chen family. No wonder he is so against me. It turns out he got involved with that crazy woman. This matter is important. We must inform the other old guys. Otherwise, if the madwoman is successfully reborn, her combat power will be greatly increased. Boom. With a dragon roar that resounded throughout the world, the huge dragon body entrenched in the dragon palace suddenly rushed out and rushed towards the southern dragon domain. At this moment, the shocked Beiyan Dragon Emperor did not notice at all. Outside the dragon palace, the two hybrid dragons who were originally responsible for guarding suddenly trembled after it left, and their eyes could not hide a hint of surprise. Temple. Mbu was playing with a small red bitter tea quietly. Her eyes were slightly blurred, as if she was dreaming about something. At this moment, a wave of void suddenly appeared, and she was so frightened that she quickly stuffed the red bitter tea in her hand into the snow-white abyss, looked up, and what came into view was the returning figure of Chen Beiyuan. Before she could shout out, Chen Beiyuan waved his hand to interrupt her and suddenly said, I remember that there was a supreme-level, evil-eyed emperor dragon living deep in the southern continent. Ever since concubine Huang learned from concubine Huang that Anu needed powerful dragon blood of his own race for rebirth, Chen Beiyuan took out the bodies of Ao Lai and Ao Qing from the system space. However, due to the low level, it did not have much effect. Therefore, Chen Beiyuan's first reaction was to return to reality and slay a powerful dragon. And if he remembered correctly, there happened to be a powerful dragon race ferocious beast deep in the foreign territory deployed on the southern front of the southern border. Yes, Master. The reason why the southern front has not been in a stalemate over the years is because of its existence. Privately, the Gu clan has had transactions with him. Although Enbiyu was confused about her master's question and didn't know its intention, she still chose to answer. That evil-eyed dragon emperor has a cunning character, strange abilities, and is not weak in strength, but it is nothing to the Gu clan, and Emperor Gu has the ability to take care of them. The reason why he didn't take any action was just to make the invaders self-respecting. This allowed the Donghua Empire to continuously invest a large amount of resources into the southern front, and it could also vaguely guarantee the status of the Gu clan. To a certain extent, the relationship between the southern Xinjiang Gu people who are human race and whether they are allies or evil-eyed dragon emperor, who is supposed to be the enemy, has always been a matter of course. Chen Beiyuan is also aware of this. Just listen to his calm tone. You lead the way. I want to borrow its body for use. Southern Continent, Evil Eye Monster Valley. Boom. A terrifying blizzard suddenly swept out of the sky, like a natural disaster. Countless huge ice crystals quickly fell towards the evil-eye dragon race below. In an instant, countless evil-eyes dragon race were instantly killed by the extreme cold and ice. In the huge valley, an angry and screaming dragon roar suddenly resounded. Gu Clan Saintus, you and I have no grudges in the past, and have no grudges recently. We are still secretly in contact with each other. Why did you suddenly attack me? Boom. A huge dark dragon had suddenly emerged from the valley. It was covered with a large number of huge eyes, which looked extremely evil. It also had a pair of huge, slightly tattered wings behind it, which had strong characteristics of a Western dragon. The terrifying dragon power of a powerful person bloomed on its body. This is clearly the biggest enemy of human race on the entire southern front. Evil-Eye Dragon Emperor. However, at this moment, it no longer had the brutal and domineering appearance before, but it looked extremely embarrassed. There were huge, rotten frostbites on his body, and even the evil dragon eyes covering the flesh and blood were frozen and lost their powerful power. At this moment, it was looking at the cold figure above the ice and snowstorm with a look of shock and resentment, its eyes full of despair and fear. It couldn't figure it out that the Gu clan, which was supposed to be a secret ally, would assassinate. In the face of the constantly sweeping ice and snowstorm, the evil eye on its body was almost directly frozen, losing its previous powerful power. Its powerful body was deprived of its temperature bit by bit, and the vitality in the body was quickly extinguished. The fear of death suddenly surged into its heart at this moment. In an instant, a ruthless intention suddenly emerged from its heart. The hidden, evil eye between its eyebrows began to quietly accumulate strength, slowly opened it, and aimed at the beautiful figure of ice and snow above, wanting to fight to the death. This emperor will never die. Swish! A huge dragon bone arrow filled with countless resentments suddenly tore through the void, pierced its eyebrows, and penetrated its head. Boom! There was a loud bang, and a loud roar of thunder resounded from the Evil Eye Valley. The huge evil-eyed dragon body was smashed down hard, and the tattered shadow wings behind it left deep marks on the valley floor. A huge bone bow filled with countless dragon race resentments was deeply embedded in its eyebrows, and the arrow penetrated to the back of its head, completely destroying the hidden evil eye. Ancient dragon slaying. The evil-eyed dragon emperor's fierce face suddenly stiffened, and his huge dragon eyes began to dim and lost their light. The only trace of light left was staring at the figure in black, holding a huge bone bow in the sky, his eyes full of despair and fear. Obviously, it recognized the origin of the huge bone bow with many cracks. But shouldn't the powerful emperor weapon aimed at dragon race have been destroyed by the strong men of dragon race many years ago. Why does it still appear? Under the attack of countless dragon soul resentments from the dragon-slaying arrows, its soul began to experience violent turmoil. Click, click. Lines of extremely cold ice began to cover it, completely freezing it in an instant, extinguishing any trace of life in the left rear and cutting off all means of survival. The last glimmer of light in the evil-eyed Dragon Emperor's eyes disappeared, completely falling into darkness. This figure has been manipulating the entire southern continent, repeatedly invading Donghua territory, secretly colluding with all parties, ruthless, cunning, and insidious mastermind, and was finally executed. I'm afraid that until its death, it never imagined that the Gu clan, its excellent partner, with which it had been cooperating, would suddenly turn against it and join forces with outsiders to kill it. What it never expected was that from beginning to end, the reason for its death was just its powerful dragon race bloodline. Swish! Chen Beiyuan calmly put away the ancient dragon-slaying bow that was on the verge of breaking as the cracks in his hand continued to deepen. After being used several times, this dragon-slaying weapon has begun to reach the end of its lifespan and may collapse at any time. However, at this moment, he didn't care at all. Everything has its own value. The ancient dragon-slaying bow was originally created to slay dragons. Now it is about to fall on the road of slaying the dragon. Once the evil-eyed Dragon Emperor died, there was no strong enemy in the entire southern front. The remaining ferocious beasts and alien races were just cats and dogs, nothing to fear. Afterwards, a large army was mobilized to sweep the Lighting Court and advance all the way. In less than 10 years, the southern front is fully integrated into the imperial territory. At this point, the north and the south have been unified, the territory has been expanded, and the foundation has been established for eternity, which is enough to be recorded in the history of the human race. However, that is all a matter for the future. Now we should deal with the immediate matters first. Chen Beiyuan's thoughts were lingering, and he took a step directly into the Evil Eye Valley. And Beiyu, who was behind him, also followed closely behind, keeping up with the pace. When the two of them entered the Evil Eye Valley, the first thing they saw was a world like ice and snow. A huge frozen dragon corpse was lying quietly and motionless at the bottom of the valley. Chen Beiyuan took out a huge blood-colored dome from the depths of the sea of consciousness and immediately glanced at Beiyu next to him. Snapped. And Beiyu just casually snapped her fingers, and the huge ice covering the entire Evil Eye Valley instantly cracked and turned into strands of extremely cold air, returning to her body. Beiyu, you are helping me protect the law outside. No matter what happens next, don't interfere with me. Okay, master. And Beiyu stared deeply at the bloody dragon egg held carefully in Chen Beiyuan's arms and paused for a moment. She seemed to have guessed the origin of the dragon egg and what was going to happen next, and she couldn't help but feel a trace of inexplicable jealousy in her heart. Since her strength has become stronger and her identity has changed, some rebellious thoughts have vaguely emerged in her heart. However, the long-term training and love for Chen Beiyuan still made her subconsciously respond submissively at this moment. Pull. Chen Beiyuan, who was holding the celestial beast halberd, easily slit the neck of the fallen evil-eyed Dragon Emperor in front of him and pierced its heart. The surging purple dragon blood was like a fountain, spraying towards the huge pit below, splashed away, forming a huge pool of blood. A round, blood-colored huge dragon egg floated slowly in the blood pool, with a faint red light glowing on the eggshell, as if it was conveying joyful emotions. She even slowly floated to the edge of the blood pool, as if she was inviting a yuan above to come down and take a bath together. Come, play it. This scene was just like when they first met each other in the Blood Dragon secret realm. Chen Beiyuan couldn't help but have a smile of relief on his lips, and stretched out his hand to stroke the bloody dragon egg. In the blink of an eye, it's been almost a year. Time flies so fast. Since coming to this world, this little silly dragon has been with him the longest. Now, this little silly dragon is finally growing up. Thinking back to the beginning, the Emperor's backup plan left behind by the bloody Dragon Emperor wanted to make him a favorite. If, Abyss hadn't shown off its power at the critical moment. The consequences could be disastrous. As it continued to absorb the powerful dragon blood of the evil-eyed dragon emperor, the bloody dragon egg became brighter and brighter, and a terrifying imperial power began to condense from inside the dragon egg. Boom! Outside the Evil Eye Valley, the originally clear sky suddenly turned dark, and countless purple, dark purple, and silver purple thunder began to appear out of thin air, carrying terrifying heavenly pressure. To be reborn is to go against the will of heaven. Naturally, there will be vast thunder tribulation coming to hinder his rebirth. When the Blood Dragon Emperor chose Blood Dragon Secret Realm to be reborn, he had the idea of using the Secret Realm's heaven and earth barrier to block the rebirth of thunder tribulation. At the same time, the blood pool she left behind was enough to sustain her until she was reborn. However, she probably never thought that Blood Dragon Secret Realm would be discovered by the Jiang family. I never thought that the Secret Realm was about to collapse. If Chen Beiyuan hadn't brought her out, she would have left this world quietly. Sure enough, just as concubine Huang said, thunder tribulation really appeared, but it was one of the 9 ancient thunder tribulations, destruction thunder tribulation. This was to completely cut off this little silly dragon's chance of rebirth. Road. Chen Beiyuan frowned slightly. Obviously, he didn't expect that the little silly dragon would be so troubled. If it weren't for him, her chance of being reborn would be less than 1%. Suddenly, his expression changed. A mysterious silver light appears on the body, as if it is carrying out some kind of early warning. Besides the natural catastrophe, are there other catastrophes? Besides the natural catastrophe, are there other catastrophes? Chen Beiyuan frowned slightly, a little surprised by Tianji's sudden warning. A catastrophe is already a bit exaggerated. Are there other catastrophes now? Aren't you trying to kill the little silly dragon? However, he had no intention of doubting Tianji Daofa. After obtaining the talent trait of Tianji Daofa, he clearly understood the horror of this talent, and even more so the difficulty of the white-robed Taoist. Unless he had obtained a unlucky luck before, which directly reversed the opponent's luck and caused him to suffer from bad luck, killing him would be no less difficult than killing a top-notch human race warrior. Let me figure out what kind of disaster there is. A mysterious silver light shone in his hand, and he quickly deduced, seeming to be looking for the source of the disaster. Soon, the movements of his hand stopped, his eyes suddenly turned cold, and some incomplete pictures of the future appeared in his mind. Okay. It turned out to be a disaster caused by man-made evolution. It really gave me a big surprise. In that case, I have to give you a big surprise. He suddenly took out the celestial beast halberd from the system space, aimed it at the heart without hesitation, and penetrated it bit by bit. In an instant, a severe pain and suffocation suddenly surged into my heart. At the same time, his own terrifying resilience and secondary adaptive evolution come into play. Click, click, with the continuous passive function of secondary adaptive evolution. At this moment, his originally short body began to show signs of growing up. Outside the Evil Eye Valley. What a terrifying thunder tribulation. Such a thunder tribulation is probably enough to destroy a continent. Even the most powerful people from all races would find it difficult to withstand it. And Bu looked up at the gathering thunder tribulation in the sky, with a trace of solemnity in her eyes. Even with the blessing of Emperor Gu, she might not be able to withstand such a terrifying thunder tribulation. Unless she can become the emperor, unless she exerts all the power of the Emperor Gu, she can resist and have a chance of survival. Where did that little guy come from, to be able to cause such a terrifying thunder tribulation? And Bu's pupils shrank, and she suddenly felt a chill coming over her hair. She subconsciously looked towards the sky and saw huge scale claws flashing through the clouds. Deep in the soul, Xianbing Dragon Soul Gu also slowly opened a pair of cold dragon eyes, and his eyes became extremely serious, as if he had sensed an unprecedented threat. Give me complete control of your body. You are not something you can handle. This was the first time Bu saw the serious emotion on Emperor Gu's side. You know, in the previous few attacks, Emperor Gu was in a leisurely and calm state. At most, he just lent his power to her. Now, he wants to take control of her body. However, at this time, Mbu directly handed over control of her body without any hesitation. Good. Boom. Mbu's eyes trembled and were instantly covered in white. Her body trembled, as if she had changed into a different person. Her figure became taller and rounder, and her whole body exuded a terrifying pressure of extreme cold. In an instant, the terrifying coercion of a top and most powerful person suddenly erupted from her body, and just the slightest breath she exuded caused unprecedented changes in the surrounding weather. Call, call, call. A storm of ice and snow instantly set off hundreds of miles around the Evil Eye Valley, and the entire sky was covered with frost, swirling continuously, and even the clouds and mist were frozen. At this moment, it was as if all the thunder tribulation condensed in the sky were drowned by the ice and snowstorm. Several soft murmurs suddenly resounded from the clouds and mist. Obviously, the visitors did not expect that such a roadblock would appear and directly block their way. Those guys who are hiding their heads and showing their tails, get out of here. Mbu's eyes flashed fiercely, and a cold look flashed across her face. Terrifying thoughts swept the entire place instantly, and the ice and snowstorm instantly condensed hundreds of diamond-shaped icicles as vast and huge as icebergs. With unimaginable speed, it attacked the sky. Brush, brush, brush. Is this the long-lost Arctic power of my dragon race? A thick sound of surprise suddenly appeared from the clouds in the sky. Are you the mysterious southern border Emperor Gu? Another hoarse voice emerged from the clouds. The good lord of southern border doesn't do anything, but actually wants to get involved in my Wanlong Island affairs. He is clearly seeking death. Boom, boom, boom. With the explosion of hundreds of huge icicles, they instantly penetrated the clouds and mist in the sky, and then violently hit several behemoths hidden in the clouds and mist. When the terrifying icicles that seemed to be enough to penetrate the giant peaks hit those behemoths, they only shed white marks and frost on their scales. At this moment, the uninvited guest who was hidden in the clouds and mist, with only a few scales and claws showing, finally revealed his true appearance. Those were three extremely huge dragons that exuded terrifying pressure. The terrifying dragon at the front has dragon scales that are green and red, and its scale claws have green flame entanglements. Its huge dragon eyes exude a cunning and insidious aura. The terrifying dragon on the left has dark blue scales. Its scale claws are surrounded by azure water mist, and its huge dragon eyes are cold and ruthless. The last terrifying giant dragon's scales are dark yellow, giving people an inexplicable sense of weight. Its size is also the largest, reaching almost 1,500 feet, which is 1 meter larger than the two giant dragons around it. Lock up. Mbu narrowed her eyes lingering on the three terrifying dragons, as if she had recognized their identities. The Lord of the Northern Dragon Territory, Northern Flame Dragon Emperor Ao Yen. The Lord of the Southern Dragon Territory, Namyao Dragon Emperor Aoshuan. The Lord of the Western Dragon Territory, the Western Dragon Emperor Aoquan. 3 of the 4 masters of the Dragon Realm on Wanlong Island came here at once. It's really a big battle. With the arrival of the 3 most powerful dragon emperors from Wanlong Island, and the inexplicable appearance of Thunder Tribulation, Mbu has roughly guessed the true identity of the little girl who always follows Chen Beiyuan. Only the blood-evil dragon emperor who specialized in hunting down dragon race experts more than 100 years ago could have such a pomp. Among the 3 most powerful dragon emperors, the Shitsu dragon emperor Aoquan, who is the largest, has the thickest aura, and is unfathomable, slowly lowered his dragon head, stared at Mbu below, and slowly said, "Seeing that you are closely involved with dragon race and were part of the sovereign clan of dragon race during your lifetime, please step aside. We can forget the offense just now. Don't even think about it. Since I promised that person, I won't let you get anywhere near him." Mbu sneered and expressed her attitude directly with practical actions. Extreme chill.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.